All righty, let's do
Mishaël,
it.
how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing very well.
Man, it's an honor to have you. I'm going to give the short bio for everyone who's not familiar with who you are, and then I'm gonna ask you a lot of questions. But man, it's really good to have you. Thank you for taking the time to join me today.
Yeah, of course. Very
Yeah,
cool and honored to be on the show.
yeah, we're gonna have a good time. So Mishaël Lopes Cardozo, this is what you need to
So, yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not even the whole name. That's
Yes.
even it's like
He
it's not my fault.
Michelle is this is just a small brief overview of what he's done for our listeners. He's international sword master. He's a painter, fine arts. He's a musician. He's a coach. He's an entrepreneur. He's an acclaimed actor. He's best known for his roles in Richard the Lionheart Rebellion, Game of Thrones, and my favorite role that he's played, Vikings. I kept trying to get him to give me little insights into what was going to happen next in the show, and he was a good actor. He kept the secrets and would not let me
Spoiler alerts. Ah,
wouldn't let me know what was going on next until I found out like everyone else. But I was taking, since Michelle's my friend, I was taking pictures of my television screen and sending it to him saying, ah, here's your character again. I love it. I love it. So that was great. Um, Michelle studied art at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in The Hague.
in
In
the Hague.
2002, he founded a historic fencing club in Netherlands. That's HEMA, and some of our listeners would remember when we had Anders Leonard, who also teaches at HEMA school back a couple
Yeah,
months ago.
very good friend of mine.
Yeah, he's an awesome dude. I think he's the one that connected you and I back in the day. I think he's
Oh,
the
it could
one
be.
that,
Yeah, me and Anders go back a
yeah.
long time.
So I'm going to start right here, dude. You were knighted in 2008. Tell me about that.
Well, that seems like a century ago. Yeah, well, okay. I didn't expect that question, but 'cause I don't talk about it much.
Well, we don't
But
we don't get to become knights over here in America. So this is
well, normally in Holland, you can only get sort of officially knighted by the queen, and but you have still these underground societies, of course. And yeah, there was one guy that had barely observing me for 17 years. And basically just seeing what I was up to. And then he contacted me. And yeah, and that became a thing. I sort of got introduced in that society. And yeah, sort of, yeah, I was younger and sort of
yeah.
his squire. And in the end, it kind
Yes.
of faded out. I was doing in the end my own thing. And then the roads crossed again. And yeah, because I was back then also in the reenactment stuff and already starting with HEMA. But I was really young when I met him, and then we kind of, yeah, lost track. I thought lost track of each other, and in that time period of the 17 years, finally at the end, he said that it was his job to basically pass on his knighthood, and then yeah, so he asked me to become the next in line. It became a kind of a big thing here in Holland. Was in all the newspapers and
Yeah.
stuff. It was kind of cool, and the ritual was cool. I still remember the classic slap with the glove in my face. Yeah, yeah. I was already happy that he didn't use the metal gauntlet, but anyway, it was the ceremony was very cool because I was thinking,
And
yeah, knighthood, getting knighted, I mean, it's like the 21st century, But in the end, when it actually happens, and you have all the people there and the
yes.
whole ceremony, and then also all the vows and all
Yeah.
yeah, the whole thing in the end made much more impact on me than I thought. And actually, when I left,
Absolutely.
I really felt okay. Something happened, and also kind of pushed me, to
To live up to
stay on the
those
right
oaths.
track because
Yes.
I used to be also a little bit of a bad boy in the old
No.
days here in Amsterdam. Yeah, but yeah, everybody has a past, and yeah, I kind of sorted everything out after that, and I also decided to just focus on the really positive things in life and try to yeah, really make, let's see if I can monetize my hobbies and give something back to the people.
I see you settled down. You've got a nice lady that you're very committed to, and you guys go on adventures together. But I also see you're still a
Yeah.
little bit of a bad boy. I see you at Cannes film festivals every
Yeah, but that's
cocktail parties.
my girlfriend has to put up with all that the phony Hollywood shit. But she does that very well. She has the mindset of a truck driver, so that's
That's
pretty good.
awesome.
She just says, "Oh yeah, just go off, just keep your dick in your pants," and that's good. Well, yeah, yeah. She's very chill about that. So
Yeah.
that's but we know each other already for 7 years, and I used to be going all over the place.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I mean, so like there's a steady relationship. It is also yeah, that's all part of the game, basically. Sometimes you grow up, or basically you find the right one.
Yes.
That's and she keeps me also in check.
You two
So that's
you two
good.
certainly seem to complement one another, and you're both passionate about fitness and martial arts and all of these things. And
Yeah, yeah.
speaking of the commitments and the pledges that you make in knighthood, you wrote a stellar review of my book back 3 years ago, the Chivalric Code, and I that was really great. So I know that this means a lot to you, that it's not just like with every martial art, the historical European martial arts not only is a fighting style, but it comes with its own code of ethics, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and it is quite something, because yeah, I train a lot of guys, also younger guys, and they come into my club, and I got like 150 of them, but also women. So yeah, of course we have more men because the sports in the end attract more men. I mean that's just a fact. But in the end, the mindset and being able to withstand the pressures of contemporary times, and also with the whole yeah, like even the woke movement and all this stuff where everybody's sort of men don't know what is a man, and women don't know anymore what is a woman. So it's like the classic values are slowly
Yes.
disappearing. And of course, everybody's entitled to do what they want and think what they want. But of course, yeah, what my job is, in fact, is to give these guys also a place where they can be men. And what's the definition then of a man? Yeah, well, it's having wisdom, knowing how to defend yourself, dealing with stress, dealing with social uncomfort, aggression. Yeah, but also strategical decision making, all these kind of things. So yeah, that's basically what I
That's
help them. So it's therapeutic in a sense, but also through martial arts.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I had that same conversation recently. I lead a small church group on Sundays, and there are some young men in our church whose father has been absent their entire life. So they've been raised by their mother, which she's a saint. Their mother's a wonderful woman. Laid down her life for her children. As many mothers do. And I pulled them aside one Sunday because they're good boys, but they're soft. And I pulled them aside and I said, I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be the Marine Corps like me. It doesn't have to be the jujitsu martial arts school in town. It can be learning survival skills and going up into the mountain behind your house and spending a day or two alone in the woods. And just, I said, I don't care what it is, but you need to find something manly that scares you a little bit, and you need to apply yourself to it. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. And yeah, what I see, and also now in business doing, I just had dealing also with a guy. Sometimes yeah, people can have an opinion about themselves, and they kind of live in this kind of vacuum of make believe almost, and it can even be guys,
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
driving a Tesla and having a couple of companies. So, and they are there, and it's just pretentious, but and they try to keep up this appearance. But in the end, when you want to coach somebody like that, yeah, you also have to be somebody has to be available,
Hmm.
because you start gonna strip all all outer bullshit, and then in the end,
Yes.
what remains, and you also know it, like when you go in the military, kind of works the same, what they do is a very simple system. They just deprive you of sleep.
Yes.
When they deprive you of sleep, your neocortex is not capable of keeping up the appearances and the bullshit. So in
Right.
the end, just by depriving sleep, you in the end, the core mechanism, what in the end remains, that has to work or not, and that's basically on what you get judged, not on your
Yeah.
fucking bullshit what comes out of your mouth,
Yeah.
because that's easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is difficult also for some people to have the confrontation, but people come to me, and normally, it's always quite successful. I've seen people, yeah, even young kids with very severe autism,
Hmm.
but like really, really severe. The kid gets brought in, and mom says, "Okay, he wants to do a trial lesson." And I see the kid, and it's just like standing there, and it can't make any contact with it. And then like 1 month, 2 months in the end, and it's
Ah,
like you ask him a question, and then sorry, I was distracted. But then 1 year later, 2 year later, 3 years later, coming in the dressing room, telling jokes, and completely it's like amazing.
yes.
And I even got letters and emails, and the doctors don't even understand it. So in the end,
Mm.
you can also apparently just reprogram people instead of just stuffing them with medication.
Yeah, yeah. Well, don't get me started on that because I don't know if you know my day job is as a high school teacher, and what we see is usually girls are about 6 months ahead of boys in their
Yeah.
education, and
Hmm.
and in intelligence and in verbal skills. Usually, girls are about 6 months ahead, and because of that, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, um, our our system has been geared toward a girl's style of learning. Boys are very hands-on, they're very physical, they're very active, and they need that. um when you say, okay, someone is going to stand in the front of the classroom and lecture for the next 30 minutes, and you have to sit perfectly still and listen and write down. Boys are wired differently than girls are, and that's a hard ask for boys. So i think um I think it's sad that uh, in Western culture, it's easier for us to throw a label on a kid and say, this boy has this learning disability, this boy has that learning disability, instead of saying, no, maybe we're failing these boys. Maybe we as, as the learning institution, maybe we as parents, maybe we need to look in the mirror and say, what could we be doing better instead of failing them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. But of course, the problem of this, how do you call that, tendency, or what is happening also, it is, of course, society. It's like there's a lot of angles that are putting pressure now on the youth. It's in
Hmm.
information, disinformation, access to a lot of stuff, including porn, uh, politics, violence, and in the end, yeah, you can say, okay, it's maybe good to expose kids at least to the reality of the world, but on the other hand, it's like it is just too much,
Yeah.
so, and I don't know how you can moderate that,
Yeah.
it's just it's problematic, and yeah, for young boys, they have problems just being boys, I mean, grammar schools and stuff here in Holland, it's fine, but also in the university, everything has to be moderate, and
Hmm.
if you
Hmm.
just open your mouth slightly too wide, you're toxic masculinity, like, and so yeah, they are basically just being drilled, and yeah, I feel
Yeah.
that their souls are being compressed in a sense, because kids have to just roam free, and
Yeah.
guys have testosterone. It needs to go somewhere, so
Yeah.
yeah, and of course you can do sports. I mean, that is very important. But yeah, you see also a lot of kids just sitting behind a computer at home
Hmm.
gaming. know, and smoking reefer. And I mean, we have that a lot in Holland.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
And they just become more and more disengaged at that point.
yeah, it's like you know, it's very difficult to get these kids from behind. Yeah, I always sort of secretly enjoyed when I watch these videos when dads in the end, you know, just storm into this room and just rip out the fucking Xbox, toss it in the swimming pool and say, "Now you're gonna get a job."
That's right.
And
Yeah.
also, yeah, because it has to happen. You know
Mhm.
what I said. You know, you just people I think grown-ups sometimes have to be stripped and they don't like what they see, you know what you say, like go out by yourself,
Mhm.
you know, by yourself, you know, solely getting, you know, confronted by yourself and your own thoughts and your own demons, and then deal with that and grow and accept who you are instead of trying to be somebody that you feel is expected from your surroundings, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I had
Well,
a dad like that, you know, like it's not a happy life
yeah.
keeping up pretend.
Yeah, and a lot of ancient cultures, I know in the Scandinavian cultures, in the North American native cultures, even the old the Greeks, you know, the Spartans and all of those, they had a rite of passage for young men. Like, you know,
Yeah.
their mothers would raise them until 8 or 9 years old, and then it was like, okay, it's time for you to learn to become a man. And then when they, you know, had spent a lot of time around the men, then there was this rite of passage. You know, with Native Americans, I know. My great great grandfather was raised by the Sac and Fox Indians before the Black Hawk War, and in their culture, you couldn't sit in the council until you had killed one of the enemy, and so you know there was this rite of passage in all of these ancient civilizations, and I think we've lost that as a culture. You know, in the Marine Corps, what they did, and this is illegal, but they did it anyway, what they do, you know, you were talking about stripping away the BS. They find out what makes you give you your sense of self confidence, and they find out what that is, and they take that away from you. With me, I had a very strong family unit. You know, I was very close to my family, and so for 2 of the 3 months I was at boot camp, I didn't receive one letter. And eventually I got this big stack of letters at the end, and what it was is they knew that's where I
Hmm.
drew his Jonathanness from, was
Yeah,
from his family strength. So they severed me from that until they even stripped that from me until they could build me up, you know, into what they wanted me to be. And I'll say this, and then I'll shut up. But I have a
no, it's cool. I like to hear it. Let's yeah,
I
bring
have
it
a
out.
I have a friend, and you know, I'm in my I'm in my late 40s now. That I have a friend that's in his 20s, and he's a bodybuilder, and you know, he's a big bulky guy, and whenever he's been drinking a lot, that's when he wants, you know, to call me up and talk to me. And you know, when he's feeling his liquid courage, he starts talking a lot of smack, and he says, you know, they tried to recruit me. They wanted me to be a warrior, but I'm not going to bow my knee to, and he's talking all this. And he says, you know what I want, Jonathan? He said this to me just a couple days ago. He said, I want someone to come into my backyard and try and take my life. I just want to fight somebody and blah, blah, blah. And I told him, and I don't know if this is how it is in the Netherlands, but I know in Norway and in Sweden and other countries, they have a couple of years where you're required to serve in the military. And I told him, I said, this is why I believe that every young man should serve at least for a couple of years, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a place to direct all that testosterone in a positive direction. But number two, you realize really quick that it doesn't matter how big your gym muscles are if you are untrained and you are fighting someone who is trained. Because I have a lot of Marine buddies that are young. My son is 26 and he's just back from the Marine Corps. He's half this guy's size, but I could have sent him over there, and he would have had him on the ground in no time. But you know, it's like they don't understand. You know, they build this BS, as you called it, persona for themselves, and they don't realize. And I told him, I said, go down to the jujitsu school I said, and go sign up. I said, they'll humble you really quick when a man half your size has you tied up and, wadded up in a ball on the ground.
But it's true, you know, and yeah, I also have my my share of crazy stuff. And I one of the craziest ones was I was like with a special yeah, special seminar for the special forces dudes. And there was this guy that used to work for Putin. He was a Russian dude, and Sistema guy, but really high level. But he was in his 70s, scrawny looking fella, you know. And we all had to kind of spar with somebody, and so well, fate just made it like we were sparring buddies. But then he said, "Let's really go for it and don't hold back," you know. And it was about with the knife, and I was supposed to attack him, and he and it was a pretty hard workshop. It was not like you know, just fooling around. It was just pretty tough. So I attacked this guy, and I'm just taking it very slow, and I just hear something like "pussy," something in my ear when he screamed, and before I know it, you know, and Nika said, "Just give me your best." And then I just went ape shit, and I'm gonna get you, you 70
You went
old
berserker on him.
yeah, but it had no use because in the end I was folded up, and he had the knife on my throat, and he said, "You're dead." And I could still remember those eyes from this guy, you know. Yeah, he was high up. Yeah, I cannot say too much about where he came from, etc. But an old geezer, but uh, easily kills me half my weight and 300 times my skills.
Yeah.
And then you go home like, yeah, and then you yeah, and all these little experiences you don't forget. So a little bit of humility
Humility goes a long way.
is sometimes in place. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, you cannot have enough of that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the saying what we talked about, of course, is the classic one. It's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war. And that is absolutely a fact. And I think for the youth, it is, especially for guys, but also I think for young women, you know, it's good to have
Hmm.
some groundwork going, you know, and working on yourself
Hmm.
and finding a place, you know, in this crazy society nowadays. And that is with my club. It's not just historical fencing; it's like the whole package, you know. But we also do a lot of unarmed stuff. We
The
do
grappling, the boxing, the
work,
knife fighting skills.
yeah, but also a lot of improvised weapon disciplines. But also silly things, or if you want to call it silly, like posture, you know.
Mm.
Okay, everybody's watching you. You walk from left to right. You know,
Mhm.
and you let somebody just walk, and you see how they're slouching with their shoulders, you know, and yeah, and just building them up, you know, like, okay, you take your space. You have a right to be here, you know. Why are you staring at the ground? Why are you slouching, you know? And also, yeah, you know, getting comfortable with observers. And that's, I think, and breathing exercises. That's very important in my classes as well. But getting comfortable with observers. And, you know, of course, also, I think a legendary quote: the art of not giving a shit is
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
be mastered. And this is absolutely true. But yeah, you can train that in the end to a sense, you know. And it's yeah, and I have a lot of mechanical tools basically to do that. So yeah, because in the core, well, you have your neocortex basically, and you have your cerebellum, your smaller
Mhm.
brain, and your big neocortex. And that's also what I always talk about with my students, and we basically train it, that people often are in the wrong drive.
Mhm.
You know, so you need to know when you need your neocortex and when you need your cerebellum. And neocortex, that is a very slow grinder. I mean, you think it's an intelligent machine, but it can only process 6 to 8 kilobytes a
Mhm.
second, and
Mhm.
A cerebellum can do 10 million kilobytes a second, but that problem is it's subconscious. So when you're driving a car,
Yeah.
you can drive a car, you can talk to your buddy about quantum physics if you want, put up the stereo, check your surroundings, and do a lot of stuff at the same time. But maybe your dad comes sitting in your car and you haven't seen him for 30 years. He said, "Oh, you just drive like your mom. No good." Yeah. And suddenly you become insecure. And now you just start making one mistake after the other because your driving is all in your cerebellum.
Hmm.
It's all automatic. But now, because of the skill, and that's where all your big neocortex, where all your doubts are, yeah, and all your fears and inadequacies, and oh, people are watching me. You go into your implosion, what you also have, for instance, when you're
Yeah.
fencing. And yeah, then that slow processor, 6 to 8 kilobytes, is trying to process all that stuff that is normally done by a processor that can handle
Right.
10 million kilobytes a second. And that's why you fail. And
Yeah.
that's all. And then you start making mistakes and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
And that's also the reason why, for movie auditions, and which are people underestimate that, for instance, that is very
Oh,
stressful.
I can
I'd
imagine.
rather go in a bar and have a brawl with four drunken guys than doing audition. I mean, but yeah, it's pretty intense and scary, because
Because you're pulling out of the instinct mode and you're pulling into like you're doing everything manually at that point because of the pressure that's on you.
no, you have to do exactly the same, but again, it's the observer that pulls you out, and then it becomes fake. So you have to, yeah, you have to, how do you say that in English? Live truthfully
Hmm.
under imaginary
Uh-huh.
circumstances.
Hmm.
You have to be completely in the now, but the now is again the cerebellum. When you're fighting, that's the now. When you're making love, it's the now. It's the cerebellum. We
Hmm.
call it Indes in the German fencing tradition. That index, you have the voor, initiative, the nach, somebody takes
Yes.
back on you and you're defending, you're going in the nach. Nobody likes to be in the nach unless you have a very strong mindset and you say, okay, bring it on.
Hmm.
But index, that is the moment where you are completely in the now. And that is always in the cerebellum. So your big brain, actually, if you just strip it down, you don't need for a lot of stuff. You only need it for planning.
Yeah.
Planning is a slow
You know,
process.
you're right, but like to use your analogy of the car, when uh, psychologists tell us that like driving a car is one of the most complicated things that humans do because of all of the things that we're processing at the same time. So when we start driving a car, like when I'm teaching my daughter to drive a standard, with the clutch and everything, when you start driving a car, there's nothing natural or nothing easy about it. But then you learn it until you can get to the point to where it moves to that other part of your brain. And it's the
Yeah,
same with sword fighting. It's the same with martial
exactly.
arts. And
Exactly.
and
That's why
and,
it
and
is
this is
slow.
actually going to segue me here to the next thing I wanted to talk to you about. I started taking martial arts at 8 years old, and when I went to college to study music, I was sitting in music class, and my professor was talking about training drills on the piano, on the keyboard, and I said, so that it becomes muscle memory. And he goes, where did you learn that term, muscle memory? And from martial arts, and it's the same thing in the Marine Corps. They want you to do things over and over and over and over and over again until it just it becomes second nature to you, so that you can shift it from that active to that reflexive part of your brain, so that the active part of your brain can be.
Yeah, that's your cerebellum. Yeah, and in the
Yeah.
army, it's even, yeah, you have the big contradictus in terminus, and that is like routine, routine, routine to get very good. But the one thing that is going to kill you is your routine. Yeah, so, yeah, that is true.
But
That's
you're a musician too, and so I wonder if you see, and I think on this recording we're going to run out of time, so I'm just going to send you another link and then we'll start it back up again, because we got like 7 minutes left. Do you see a pattern that like you're truly a Renaissance man in the sense that you're a musician, you're an artist, you're a martial artist, and you've honed all these things together. Do you see on your instruments, the guitar, the drums, the things that you play, and the weapons that you drill with? Do you see musicality of the weapons and the weaponization of the instrument, if you would? Do you see like a tie between these things in your arts?
Yeah, like when I hit somebody in the skull, do I hear a B flat? Did I hear it? Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's all basically what you say. It's muscle memory, and when it comes to playing guitar, well, I have lost it now a little bit. I was busy with the CD, and I didn't go to the studio for a while, and there were some issues with that studio. I moved to another studio, and now we want to finish the album. And I just went there with my guitar, and I didn't play for almost like a year. And I just went there and with one of my songs that I basically composed myself. So I thought I would just start off easy, It's like, all right, let's wrap this up. I'm gonna put it in the back. I see you later. I'm gonna practice because that didn't go so smooth. But that is also because it's very yeah. When you play, I play Spanish, of course, and
Hmm.
the scales. And normally I'm very fast, know everything where everything is. And now I was just sometimes going like, where the hell am I going? And because again, you know, you start going into your brain and you
Hmm.
get the microphone, everything's set up, people are waiting for you. And is it then the skill that you lost or just not playing and you lost
Hmm.
the art of not giving a shit? That's
Yeah.
mostly like a combo.
Hmm.
So in the end, it has to become, you have to start really also making music, going in that cerebellum where you don't think and you just go up and down, nothing. Okay, now I'm in minor or flat or what you call
Hmm.
it in English, and and oh, these are the skills, and I'm here, now I'm there, because then it's not gonna work, and it's the same with acting. You have to. I mean, that is exactly, for instance, also when you watch a movie, and everybody will hopefully or relate to this, when you press play and you see a movie starting, you already know in the first minute that movie's gonna suck balls or it's
Hmm.
gonna be.
Yeah.
But if somebody asks you, why is that? And on what did you base your judgment on? Then it's really difficult to basically pinpoint that.
Hmm.
And often it's because of the acting. And you might think, okay, but so there's you sometimes can't see that somebody is acting badly, but you can feel it, and
Hmm.
that gives the impression that you don't connect, and then you disengage, and then you get like this feeling, this movie sucks because it doesn't grab you, and that's mostly because bad actors they learn their text and they already give it an interpretation. It says, okay. So okay, my character is walking to the car. Wife comes outside. She says, "I love you." And okay, I love you too. So you already have something in your head. You interpret it like she's gonna say, "Oh, I love you," and "I love you too." Uh, but real good actors. So when you play that out and you already know how you're gonna do it, then you are again in your neocortex
Hmm.
because you're trying to give an interpretation on something. But in fact, you don't even know how she's gonna say it, because if she just waves you goodbye and says, "I love you," yeah. But if she whatever tosses your sandwiches against your windscreen and says, "Yeah, I love you," and you don't know what you're gonna get basically. So, but a real good actor, and that was, by the way, pretty bad acting myself
No, well,
because that
I
was in
have
my
to
head.
I have to tell you though, Michelle, when you said I love you, I felt it right here. I mean,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I love you too.
But anyway, a good actor will just learn his text like a machine. I love you.
Hmm.
Uh, let's go there, blah, 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 like a machine. And then you don't know what you're gonna get.
Hmm.
So you just feed off the opponent, if you want to talk in martial arts terms.
Hmm.
It's like a surgeon, I mean, a surgeon operates somebody. He doesn't bloody well has a plan. It is just, you see what the problem is and you have to just respond.
Right.
It has no use trying to figure out all the solutions to all possible, and that creates a problem normally in your brain. It's the same as people do audition or job interview and they stand under the shower and just worried and thinking, oh, what can they ask? But it's all the same. Job interview, audition, or driving with your dad next to you. In the end, you just have to make a connection with something, and mostly with your opponent. Of course, in the car you don't have it, but then you can, let's say, focus on a tree or on a leaf that's on a tree. And if you actually look at that, your brain will be occupied with that.
Yeah.
And cerebellum, the fast drive, will take over.
Yeah.
And it's the same with acting, and same with fighting. You just focus on the opponent or on a part of maybe a scratch on the grid of his fencing mask. And that's, you just observe that grid. Or if you're in a real fight, you observe somebody in the left eye and you keep focusing. And with acting also, you start to find these little twinkles in somebody's left eye, well, depending a little bit where the camera is. Some of it can be the right eye, but the left eye is the emotional part of your brain. But when you then focus really on that little thing, your brain is busy with that. So you get out of your head and then somebody feeds you a line. And
Yeah.
it just rolls out
Yeah.
and you didn't have a plan. And then when you watch a movie, it lands. But if somebody just and just had this already in his head, it does not.
Yeah.
And then again, you want to make a connection with somebody. Yeah, get out of your bloody head, because the head is making up stories. That's putting all the onion layers around it, the pretentious crap. And you see it, when you ask somebody a question, very simple question, and they think about it like a bit, you already know that might not be the answer, like
Right.
you have to in this respond. And if you have a job interview, same shit.
Yeah.
Somebody asks you something, you don't have to worry, just to go to your job interview. It's like, if you just respond from your true impulses, it is always real.
Yeah.
And your job interview is not about bloody you. Your skills are on a piece of paper. They already read it. The guy who's sitting on the other side of the table is just going to go back to his boss. Yeah, I had a good feeling about this guy, or I didn't have not a good feeling about this guy. And that's all. And if you make a connection, you can talk about anything.
So that's really interesting. Basically, let me recap that and tell me if I'm understanding what you're saying right. What I'm hearing you say is, because I do the same thing too. When I'm in the flow in music, I can be singing, playing the bass guitar, and thinking about, okay, that person's really engaged in my performance. Those people back there are talking about, the politics. Like your brain can do all of these things. And you're saying that even in martial arts, that you should let your brain go to that place where you're letting your body do the autopilot instead of being, fully like focused on, okay, if he throws a punch, I'm going to do this. So you're saying, like, look at that scratch on his helmet and
You
just
should,
lock in, lose
yeah.
yourself in.
The whole idea is basically, and I train, of course, with a lot of guys, and I've been all around the world. And in the end, I just distill from what nothing is originally mine. I just combine a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've learned now so far, and you also have, of course, no plan survives the first contact with the enemy. You know that one, or basically no plan survives.
Or if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah, but yeah, basically that. But also when you're in a fight, as soon as you think about a plan or anticipating something, you already have the implosion. You're already in your big brain.
Mhm.
So what a good fighter does, he's constantly in the cerebellum, and he has very small peaks where he just goes like, that's it. And when you're sparring, for instance, in tournament bouts, which I think the setup, and I'm very happy that, because people actually are using my rules. Well, half people don't even know, probably majority doesn't even know you're actually using Cardozo's rules. Like I introduced at the ILSG the pointing out the target. So
Yes.
like when people said, okay, you see a hit, and then three judges go like, uh, they say, okay, it's a hit, but then you got all the alphas and the betas judges, and they
Yes.
follow all the alpha because they didn't see it. So I in the end introduced, okay, target, and everybody has to immediately point the target where it hit. So
Ah,
you can't basically sell any bullshit. And if then in my ILG back things, I'm a little bit sidetracking, but
no, it's excellent.
if somebody basically pointed out, you can see, because then they wait, and
Uh-huh.
that basically just took them out as judges, replace them. But shit, I lost track. So how did we get there?
No,
We're talking about
you
tournaments.
were
Yeah,
talking
we're talking
about
about fighting.
disengaging the active mind, working on your muscle
Yeah,
memory.
yeah. So basically, you go so like in sparring. Yeah. So when you get hit, yeah, in our tournament setting, you hit somebody. The judges go with the whole the flag system, and then you have a moment to walk to your corner. That is where you can process, oh, I got stabbed in the face. What the hell happened? How did it go? Okay, so now okay, I did this, I did that. And so you have a moment to contemplate, and then you go back in, fight. And then it has to be gone.
Mhm.
And I train also guys to avoid the lingering, which is dwelling in the past. I have a lot of drills for that. And because let's say you do high speed frequencies, just sequences, which are very, very good for sparring. People think it's just stage combat, but the reason why I got good in sparring and win a lot of gold medals is because I was very good at, stage combat,
Yes.
because it requires distance management.
Mhm.
It requires stopping power. So if somebody, makes a mistake and goes low where he's supposed to go higher as a blackout, you don't cut him
Mhm.
straight ahead, so you can
Mhm.
stop 1 centimeter. And it's very handy, because if you come in and you see already somebody going there, you have the stopping power and immediately can move to the other side. So, but basically, if you're sparring, yeah, you'll have these moments where you can contemplate, but then you have to let it go. And if you dwell in the past, for instance, when you get stabbed in the face, and you think, oh, you're like, how the hell what the hell just happened? But you're already in the fight, you immediately get stabbed in the face again.
Mhm.
And sometimes with these sequences, yeah, you can see it when the students do sequences, they they make a they make like a small tiny doubt, but they
Ah,
continue perfectly. But 3 strikes down the road, they make a mistake. But they made the
mhm.
mistake because they're still evaluating and analyzing what almost went wrong 4 strikes ago.
Yeah.
And these kind of mental, I have a lot of these kind of
One,
drills.
it's
But
one
it
of the
also
things that
helps
I
you
love.
in daily life.
Yeah,
Don't,
it's one of the things I love about what I've seen over the years from your presentation of HEMA is the sword drills. Because coming from I took Wado Ryu, which is a Japanese, it's like a glorified kickboxing, a Japanese martial art form from the time I was 8 years old, and um, katas, as martial art
yeah, yeah.
forms are very important to learning the flow, learning sequence of moves, things like that. But I'd noticed in HEMA, in historical European martial arts, people who did a lot of flow drills were almost scoffed at as being like drama queens or whatever, like putting on a show or whatever. But I've always felt, because of the benefit I saw from it, coming from Eastern martial arts, that these flow drills are really kind of essential to to the muscle memory, to
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
it out.
And more people are doing them. The one who really started it with the basic drill with the short long edge combo, that was Matt Gallis. And the first time he did it, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then he had the undercut, the short long edge from below. And I had some issues figuring that out. But then I took that and I just reshaped it and
Mhm.
added a lot of stuff. And now I have really just impossible flow drills with 2 weapons. I got like
Yeah,
the long edge combos
the
with
Techno
short.
Viking.
Yeah, and I just did. Did you see
I did.
the
I'm your
thing
biggest
for
fan, man. I have a man crush on
17,000
you.
people? Man, I had my own stage,
That
and
was
I
sick.
was
That was sick.
yeah. I was hoping I was gonna get really, really nervous, because I like that feeling, when you feel it makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
I was really, 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 really calm until I kind of got on the stage, And then it was not like nerves, but I was like 70,000 people just looking at me, you know, and I play in that clip. So the lead character from Dr. Peacock, who is really, you know, going like a madman as a DJ. And yeah, so they know me now, and I was had the whole stage, and I was a little bit late. I had to go with the golf car and step in another golf car, and you know, like it's a really big event, and I thought I just parked my car there and I just knock on the front door, but it didn't go like that. So in the end, it took way more time getting there. So then I had to get dressed, you know, put on my makeup, and yeah, basically,
It was sick.
do a couple of pump ups, my pre workout, so I got a little bit buff. And then I'm thinking, oh, shit, I have to go. I didn't even really have time to practice anything. And I completely forgot the speed of the song. So, and I'm a drummer, so I
Yes, right.
not go on the beat. And so I was sitting on one knee with the sword. Warriors of War. And I'm
I
like,
love it. Oh yeah, because that was a fast rhythm, really fast rhythm.
yeah, and I was just thinking, don't lose the sword, don't lose the sword, don't lose the sword. And I saw a couple of people in front going like, hey, and I was already thinking, you know, like so. But anyway, it was in the end, it was very cool. And then we
Yeah,
were like, and everybody, 70,000 people got like,
yeah, yeah.
it is a lot of fun.
You
And
know,
I was devastated. I only was there 1.5 minutes. It was a pretty good deal, by the way. So for 1.5 minutes, it was a good, anyway, good enterprise. But yeah, a lot of fun, but 1.5 minutes. And I felt like I ran a marathon and got run over by
sure.
6 trucks.
So much
And then,
adrenaline.
yeah, and a T-Rapes raped me from the back, you know, like basically I was done. And I mean, in 1.5 minutes, but I was doing my breathing exercises. But then you already see, even for me, the impact of the observer
Mm-hmm.
because they're observing you and you have to keep your cool and try not to go in the head and think about failure or I'm gonna fuck up or whatever, you know. So you have to kind of stay in the moment, focus on something, listen
Yeah.
to the music and really get into it, and then you actually, yeah, you enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, that's one of these things, you know. I just like these challenges, so I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, no, that was sick. I loved it. And
The new Techno Viking.
the Techno Viking. I love it. And that was a new because of course I follow you and I always, want to support you and share what you're doing to help, broaden your base for your work and for your art. Um but yeah, when I saw that, I thought that was pretty sick. One thing you probably don't know about me, I did travel for 7 years as the front man of a band, but I studied music. I studied actually vocal performance in college. And when I decided to move to Maine, there's nothing in Maine. Maine is the northern version of the sticks. There's no big cities. There's no Broadways. There's nothing like that. So when I decided to move to Maine, my music professor at the college I was attending said, Jonathan, I'm really trying to discourage you from moving up there. He said, uh, I would love for you to go to, if you're going to go to New England, go to Boston because at least there's a performance scene. Because I was doing a lot of like Broadway musical kind of performances in college, and so I never did that. I never followed his advice. I never plugged in, and but it's an aspect of your creative arts that I really find amazing. So I want to segue into in focusing on your acting career just for a minute. Um, for most people, your role, although I think your Lionheart role is probably to me one of your best. Your
Really, it was my
It
first
was
ever
awesome.
movie, and also the story behind how I got into that movie is pretty funny,
So how did you get into, like, how did
hilarious
you get your
maybe.
big break into acting? Because I mean that is a major role, man. I mean, like, you were the you were the
antagonist.
Arc rival. Yeah, you were the antagonist. And how did you land such a big role so early on? How did
No,
that?
well, that's already a while back, but yeah, it basically boiled down that we had a tournament in Italy, and it was a stage combat tournament. So you had to display historical techniques with two guys, and that's me and Kenneth, and we 3 times became in that category world champion. And some of these cups on the behind
Yeah.
from that event. And there's also that was a new one, by the way. Which this one this is the Hall of Fame, the new one. Ooh, it's a really nice one. But
That's
anyway,
awesome.
yeah. I think I'm the first HEMA guy actually that is now going up for his third Hall of
Yeah.
award. I don't think any HEMA guy had one, so I feel yeah, but it's pretty cool. But anyway, so we are doing the tournament. We win gold, and this director he knew one of the judges, and he came talking to me, Stefano Mille, and he said, "Hey, I have a screening of my movie here in the church." So I said, "Oh, cool." And I said, "You want to come and your friends?" So yeah, I had Kenneth, and I had a half-drunken Hungarian guy and a Russian, and we were already like after the yeah. So we said, "Okay, let's go watch this guy his movie." So we're sitting in this church with an acoustic like horrible. If you would let out a small little fart, it would, it was like terrible. Everything was echoing there like a madman. And so as soon as somebody only whispered, it was annoying. So the movie starts. And then like 15 minutes in, the Russian guy. And it was like an ever and we're trying to wake this guy up. But like half an hour in, the Hungarian guy, it was like two guys, and me and Kenneth trying to wake him up, but it has no use. And everybody's looking annoyed at us. And we're like, no, sorry, like, what can we do? And yeah, and in the end, I was also like, oh, and then I look and Kenneth is gone. He's all, and he has, how do you call that? What do you
Snoring.
call yeah, now, but like the one that you can't breathe really
Oh,
through the nose. So that's, yeah, like choking a whale or
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Like there's a sound coming out of his mouth. It's just your house will just vibrate, and it was just insane. So in the end, I felt really uncomfortable. But then, yeah, we're like I think an hour in, or no, sorry, no, that was the end of the movie because I woke up because of the hand clapping. So we were all four snoring, and we completely screwed up that screening, and everybody was very annoyed. And the director in the end came to our row, and he just came walking up to us and he says, "So, and how do you like my movie?" And I said, well, I said, I'm Dutch. I said, what does that have to do with anything? I said, well, it means you have two options. So what do you mean? I said, you want to have the polite answer or you want to have the honest answer? Just give me the honest answer. I said, well, your movie sucked ass, buddy. He says, really? And I said, yeah. And he said, you think you can do better? And I said, fuck yeah. And he said, you're on my next movie. And
Nice.
seriously, that's how it went.
So
And it
so
took
so
me a
fall
while
asleep
back.
in a screening is the way you get your big break.
This is how it happened. And he had a good sense of humor in the end. So yeah, it was cool. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it came to be. And then but I was first just a fight geographer. So that was basically because I was kind of referencing also to the sword fighting in the movie, not so much the acting.
Mhm.
And that was really bad. So I was doing the choreography, and the antagonist was already cast, and everything was done. And then at some point, I had a good talk with Stefano, and he said, "You know what? Read me a couple of lines from the script." And I said, "You've never done that before, but I will give it a shot." So I basically start reading the sentences, like 4 sentences, trying to memorize it, but yeah, back then I was smoking a lot of reefer when I was younger, you know, because I'm Dutch, so I
Yeah.
grew up with that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you, yeah, anyway. So that's, yeah, when I was younger, yes. And, uh, and memorizing those 4 lines was already a challenge, you know. But in the end, he said, "Okay, let's go." I got a camera, and he says, let's do it." And I did it, and he said, "It's actually you got a very good camera presence." And he said, "Your acting is actually not so bad." And I said, "You know what? Let me think about some things." And in the end, the antagonist was basically discarded, and I became the antagonist. I could do all the stunts in the movie, my own fight choreography. So I had complete artistry freedom, if you want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
call it like that. So, of course, in the end, the fights didn't end up as I wanted because everything just gets cut and you
Mhm.
get camera
Sure.
angle, shit
Sure.
like that. But in the end, there's some cool stuff in there. And what I really hate, Stefano, if you're watching this, is that he slowed a lot of things down because it
Ah.
basically went too fast.
Hmm.
So, because we with the fast combos, we were in the stage combat stuff, we were basically pooping out 3 strikes a second. So
Well,
it was
people are surprised at actually because of the notion of, the long sword, in these movies they're like slamming it down on each other, but people are surprised, someone who's actually a true martial artist like yourself with a long sword, how quickly that sword can move.
yeah, but also there's a lot of misconception about weight. People still don't know how much the sword weighs. Even Hime is sometimes stuck to it. I have no idea. I had a lot of originals in my hand. I mean, I went to many auctions here in Holland. So, putting on the white gloves and doing flow drills and swinging these things around. And the first thing that I noticed the first time I went to an auction is that swords are completely different than I even expected
Mm,
medieval. Because, first of all, the weight, but mostly even
the balance.
probably more profound. Uh, yeah, balance, but it's on the third category. It's the flexibility of the
Ah,
blade.
yeah.
So if you hold a long sword basically straight, the point will drop 1 centimeter average.
Wow.
So it's that flexible. So it will just hang
Mhm.
like this. So when you flop it, it just moves really, and all of them have it. It's
Mhm.
like it's not like the sturdy, rigid kind of blades that you well, let's say the classical 440 steel wall hangers that you buy in a souvenir shop. And of course, when the reenactment swords, even they also are not the first ones that we were fighting with in the old days. They
Mhm.
were also, very rigid, and you still have very rigid swords.
Yeah.
Of course, with the HEMA tournament, you have more flexible weapons, and that comes closer. But yeah, those weapons I call they are dead. Like they don't have a feel to them. If you have an historical weapon, it's something different, and they're very light and balanced. And the craziest one that I had in my hand was 1 meter 39. You guys do inches probably, right?
Yeah, yeah, we do. That's all right. We can figure it out.
Well, no, okay, so that is would be up like really up to
Yeah.
up to your neck, basically.
So
Yeah.
so so bigger than a long sword, smaller than a
Yeah, Montante. Yeah,
montante.
something in between. Yeah,
Mhm.
and that thing was 1.2, but like it was huge. It also has a huge blade. So shit, it's 1.2 kilograms. My God, and we have to go to the front. But okay, so if you have, let's say, a carton of milk,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
everybody knows a simple carton of milk, not the
Yes.
big one, just the basic steady one, carton of
Yes.
milk. Like this. It's that weight.
Yeah.
It is the same, which is just weird. And I also
Yeah.
had a 12th century sword in my hand, which is kind of, like the Templar arming sword, with
Yes.
the cross guard. And that thing basically felt like a squash racket. It was just ridiculous. I actually asked the guy from the auction if there was something wrong with the blade or eroded, or
Huh.
maybe, like maybe some
Yeah,
metal
they've gotten thinner
because
somehow.
it just, yeah, didn't make it. No, he says this is completely fine.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, they really could perform magic with molecules because now we know actually that swords they
Oh
also have
yeah.
percussion point. They have the middle point at the part to the cross guard because they cut a couple of these things open and basically did
Well,
research.
as I'm sure you know, everyone was like, oh, you know, Japanese sword making was the best in the world. Japanese sword making was the best in the world. And then they discovered the Ulfbert sword, you know, that the Vikings were using, the Viking nobility were using, and they were like, holy crap. You know,
Yeah, but it's
they were pretty amazing with what they were doing. We think we know so much more than they do, but uh there's a lot of knowledge that they had back then that we don't give them credit for.
yeah, but it's there are so many misconceptions, and there's also one that is very some people will go like it's bullshit. But a buddy of mine, he found like a record of a business transaction for steel, and that was around 1360 between Japan and Southern and Germany. So
Mm,
we know now for a fact that a lot of these later medieval swords in Japan were made out of Italian and German.
mm,
You know, how silly is that? And of course, random the must, the must, the art of, you have
mhm.
two stronger or weaker
Yes.
and you start folding. But the whole word the must, comes from Damascus. It does not even lie
Yeah, Damascus steel.
vicinity of Japan,
Yeah.
So it is, yeah. And we in 600 after Christ, we could already, fold like 17 pieces of bar, like an Escher painting, and fold it and get geometric patterns. And in the 15th century, the only thing the Japanese were able to do is do random Damas, just fold it, and you get
Mhm,
these wavy patterns.
mhm.
And we did that in Europe as well. We had them, but we were we were pretty clever and not so stupid to use them on the battlefield. We used them at parties and to kind of show off. But they look very cool,
Oh,
but
they, yeah, that's
the
beautiful.
tension difference in the metal is very unpredictable, and that's why you find on the battlefield conditions, also in Japan, you find a lot of broken katanas and
Mhm.
wakasashis. And on medieval battlegrounds, you don't find so many broken weapons,
Yeah,
barely, because we knew exactly what we're doing.
yeah.
And yeah, we had also a simpler way of doing it, like a small, softer inner core and two harder outer layers. But there were different ways of smithing, but functionality was the most important. And of course, we traveled through Europe. We did the Crusade, so
Yeah,
yeah, we had a lot of influences,
yeah.
and knowledge and technology was basically shared. And also you see it now even in medieval manuscripts, you see
Mhm.
colored guys with turbans, and they switch weapons. They yeah, everybody just thinks that they were just cutting each other's heads off, but
Mhm.
the majority was just making good deals and having a good political discussion and saying, okay, listen, what do you want? I want that little castle over there and that piece of land. Okay, what do you want? Okay, let's make a deal. I mean, it's always better than just bloodshed.
Sure. Uh,
So, yeah,
I
we have a lot of knowledge.
yeah, and
Japan didn't have that. Japan was just an isolated island, with little clans trying to make kill each other. And I think they stepped on shore of China one time and didn't go really well for them. So yeah, I mean, when people scream katana, they see like a London Symphony Orchestra, and the music comes in, and there's a
Mhm.
cloud, and there's the katana coming down. But it's just basically a single-edged saber. That's what
Mhm.
it is,
Mhm.
and handy for cavalry because it has a curve, so you can go around the neck when you're basically making a backhand strike. When you hit on a horse, you target, you have
Yeah,
less impact on the blade, less resistance on the wrist, so the chance of losing your weapon is slightly less. But if you compare that advantage, which you can't
Mhm.
even measure because it all depends
Mhm.
on the horse movement. If you go up and you strike, you don't strike shit. If you
Sure.
strike down and have front foot or landing, you have a lot of momentum. So it's difficult to actually measure what is in the end the perfect strike on a horse. But if you compare that to a double-edged longsword, where you have the thumb grip, much more biomechanical
Mhm.
line
Mhm.
with your wrist and your arms and your shoulders, and you have basically two edges which you can work. You have 28 different biomechanical
Yeah,
strikes.
yeah.
I don't know if HEMA is actually noted, but I don't know if you're doing HEMA, you have like 28 different strikes,
Mhm.
biomechanical strikes,
While
where
you're
you have
saying that,
nine
I'm like
with a
counting in
katana.
my head. I'm like going through my sword drills and counting in my head what the variations
Yeah,
are.
yeah, yeah. You have 28 basically.
28.
I mean, you could maybe add two more, but they're basically the same. So yeah, 28.
And we
So
we could geek out on.
every diagonal line, every
Yes,
diagonal horizontal line,
yes.
four ways to move through it, basically. So if I go, let's say, from the upper corner,
Oberhow, Underhow, Mittelhow, and then the.
no. Wait.
I'll wait right here.
Ah, I love it. I'm going
Oh, here
to
we go.
spread the stinky spread knife.
But
It is
we're gonna have to imagine
very
it has two
dangerous.
edges though.
Yes, but now you can see which edge is which edge. So if you hold it like this, then this part is the long edge, right? Because yeah, so the cartly, I don't know how you call it in English, is forward. Yeah, so this is the back edge. So kurze snijden, the lange snijden, kurze snijden in Italian. Filo dritto, the true edge, and filo falso, the
Mm-hmm.
false edge. So only from above, I don't even know it's gonna work with the camera, but okay. So when you come in, yeah, you can rotate the weapon inwards, which is called the Sturzhau. Then you can transition to from the left to an Obenhau, the long edge
Mm-hmm.
through the same line. But now you can rotate the thumb on the flat and still make a very quick rotation with the short edge, which is basically a Schielhau. And from here, you can let go and still make an Obenhau from the right, which looks like the second one, but the second one comes from the left. It's officially a different strike than the fourth one. And from this one, it's the same. You can do short, you can do long, and you can do short again, and you can do long. So if you go through all these, the different angles, you end up, and then you have also crazy stuff like the under zwerg. So basically making these kind of cuts. You have, of course, the zwerghouwen,
Yes.
all this stuff. But they're 28. But with a katana, you have only 9 because you have diagonal,
Ah.
diagonal, up, horizontal, horizontal, and down. And the straight up, yeah,
Yeah,
you could do
and
that
you
basically
can't
from the
hold up.
left and from the right. So then you have basically
Yeah,
9 strikes.
yeah,
It's not twice as much because you got 2 edges. It's more than that
yeah.
because the short edge can go inwards and can go outwards. So if you, so I design basically these crazy flow drills, but they also help because it creates like a lot of maneuverability and freedom. And in sparring, you actually know where you can go. And if you spar with somebody, because we're talking about a katana, which is basically a single-edged saber like we had in the cavalry in the 1800s.
Hmm.
And you have a very limited option, even
Hmm.
on a horse.
Hmm.
And you have much more options with a long sword. So hallelujah katana, when it comes to biomechanics, metallurgy. Oh, and then we're talking about technique. You know, if you take Katori Shinto-ryu, which is officially recognized as one of the oldest Japanese sword fight martial arts, which I also studied for a long time. Uh, but you compare the fencing theory to, let's say, Lichtenhauer,
Right,
Ringer, or whatever,
right,
then that shit just gets blown
right,
away.
right.
And I've been
And
to
a lot of people are surprised because Eastern martial arts have been so popular for so long. They're number one, they're surprised to find out that there is a European martial arts, and then they're even more surprised to find out that European martial arts have been codified for longer than any of the Eastern martial arts, like in written form for someone to study and practice.
Well, we are the only ones because if I go to a Katori Shinto-ryu school and I say, can I see a manuscript, the
Manuscripts.
original one? It's not gonna happen. Do we have a transcription? No. Do we have a translation? No. So it's very problematic, you know. So if you want to study any Japanese martial arts and you just follow in line and just do what your sensei tells you, that's all fine.
Yeah.
But don't be pretentious and think you're doing the same shit that the samurais were doing in the 15th century, because you don't know unless you actually have studied the original sources and know what they're up to. I mean, Miyamoto Musashi, he was sparring, like we know, with a bokken wrapped in cloth and then leather bands around and just kicking the shit out of his training partners. So, yeah, and in Katori Shintoryu, it's also, sorry to say, and I'm maybe gonna offend some people, I don't want to, but it's really pretentious because in
No,
the end,
no,
you're just pulling your sword out of your scabbard, your katana from your saya. You walk a couple of katas and
hmm
put your sword back. But yeah, you don't do any sparring, so you live in a false sense of
hmm
martial skill,
hmm
because that is not how the 15th century
yeah.
Japanese samurais, if they would see that stuff now, they would turn in their
So,
graves.
oh yeah,
Kendo, for instance, the only thing that you can do, but it's like tic-tac-toe with bamboo, and there's all these rules, and you have to scream the target before you hit it. So what's up with that?
yeah.
But that,
I think anyone who's listening to us, if they haven't figured out by now, we definitely are adherents and big believers in well, I'll say it, and I'll offend people you haven't offended yet, in the superiority of of our HEMA, of our historical
no, yeah, but
period.
that's not the case, because I really have a lot of respect for any
Of
martial art. I
course.
also have a respect for the samurai tradition, and I read Go Reno Show from Miyamoto Musashi, and I have yeah, there's a lot of teaching in there, because there's a lot of wisdom. So no, don't underestimate that.
No, of course.
Yeah,
And to your point earlier, because we don't have it codified, it is hard to know, what they were actually doing in the 15th century in Japan, and what how it would compare to what we're doing now. Everyone that's listening would hate me if I didn't ask you this question. What was it like on the set of Vikings?
that was very cool. Everybody loved stroopwafels. I
So
basically worked with everybody. So I had lunch with Lagata, as you know her, but and yeah. So yeah, and of course, and she was also directing in the end. It was very very cool. But yeah, hanging out with Alexander, who plays Bjorn, and of course, Fimmel was already dead in the
yeah,
series.
yeah.
But
Talk to us about your character. I loved your character. I was really sad the day that they killed him off. But talk to us about your character and maybe some of the
well,
things
the
that didn't
character,
get
yeah,
you to the
for the
screen.
Viking fans, my character is actually, I think it's an interesting character because it's a character that I think is really misunderstood. People think he's sort of like the Judas because he
Mhm.
betrayed Björn.
Lauren, yeah,
But you also know, yeah, but you also know, because I was talking actually yesterday about it with somebody, and he said, who actually had the biggest burden in the whole Christianity? There was actually Judas. He took the biggest, but I don't think it's even the same, because Harold basically historically did what was best for his people. He was called Harold sorry, Hakon, sorry. Harold is the
yes,
other.
yes,
Hakon the good. So yeah, and he was doing the best for his people.
hmm
And Harold basically made him all these false promises to vote for him
right,
instead of Bjorn. And the whole idea was that Bjorn was going to become king of all Norway. And in the end, he made all these promises. And I also shake his hand and said, "You best keep your promises." And in the end, he didn't do it. And then he
right,
realizes he betrayed Bjorn. And then he goes to the Russians to give him false news that Bjorn is dead, which he knows is not true, but he knows he's going to get killed. So he basically sacrifices himself
yes, right.
to get
Yeah, it's
still here
definitely
in
not a
Valhalla. He
right,
wants to
right.
bloody Valhalla, so he better sacrifice himself to redeem himself. So in the end, he's actually a hero, and because he brings the false news that he's
That's right.
dead, it kind of makes the whole thing even like in the end when he returns, like he got raised from the dead. He's
Yeah,
immortal. His news actually made the psychological impact of him
that's right.
returning much more deeper and severe and layered.
Yeah, and it's the last act that crowns the play, as the old saying goes. And your character, like as you just said, he made the decision he felt was best at the time, but then realized that he should have stayed faithful to Bjorn, and then made amends by sacrificing himself. And that was, as we say, the last act that crowns the
Yeah,
play.
yeah, but you see it also in the end when I get stabbed in the back. Already when I kiss his ring, when I'm looking back and left and right because I know it's gonna come. I don't know how and when.
Yeah.
So, and if you see me go down, I try to really get my twitchy foot in there. Like my left foot twitching, like pretend to be dead, with
Yeah.
some like little extra span. So yeah, I did my best, and
Yes.
that was the end of my character. And I never swing a sword, damn it, and also not
Yeah. Your
tabletop.
great your greatest skills other than acting, you are a great actor, but your greatest skills they didn't even tap in the movie.
No, but nobody now can say that I was asked for my sword fight skills. But now
That's
they
true.
say, yeah, it's because of your beard. No, you also have to be an actor,
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
they
I see
always
guys
find
I
you.
see guys every day that are trying to sport Viking beards, but you've got to have more going on than that.
Yeah, yeah. I was the first one, I think, with the split beard.
So let's talk about your look for a minute. You've obviously got the Viking look going on. I love the Scottish kilt that you wear sometimes. Anyone who's listening that doesn't follow you on social media needs to follow you, because the photo shoots that you do, photographers do with you, to promote their work. They're just um, they're awesome. And when I see you at Cannes, you've got the cowboy hat on, you've got the kilt, you've got the braided double beard. So tell me how you've developed this persona over time, and I'm sure it helps a lot in marketing yourself in the movie industry. So tell me about this look that you've developed for yourself.
Well, I used to have short hair, and how do you call that? Like the 60s. What is that? The
The fro, afro.
No, when you have uh, like the kind of Elvis Presley kind
Oh
of.
yeah,
When
yeah,
I
the
was
Vikings.
younger, very young, yeah, yeah. So, and then I became bold slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, man, if I'm gonna get bold, I at least want, at least once in my life, long hair.
Uh-huh.
So I started growing out my hair. In the end, I had, yeah, like almost up to my ass. I had hair,
Mm-hmm.
and it was actually that went still well, although it was getting bold. But it was slowly decreasing. It was not going that fast. So I could still enjoy long hair for a while, but in the end, of course, you have to comb it backwards. But at a certain point, as a man, it's very difficult to let go of your hair. Maybe you also recognize that there was like this one point where,
I went a different route, man. I
yeah,
instead of growing my hair long, my wife had photos of me on the fridge, and each of the photos was from 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. This collection of photos, and I looked at the most recent one, and I saw my hairline kept going back in each one of the photos. I said, I will not go gracefully into that good night. So at 26 years old, I cut it all
yeah,
off, and I've been like this for 20 years. I just never went back. Yeah.
all right. Yeah, well, I had then finally long hair, and then it was just, I could in the end see the reflection of the lights in the bathroom, my skull, and I'm like, it's just I need to do something. So at some point, I remember there was also a commercial, and I needed a bold guy for it. So I thought, yeah, okay, and yeah, and I thought I could do audition, and they also told me if I shave my head, I got a pretty good chance to get it. So, and then I thought, okay, let's do it, And then I took the what is that called in English? Sometimes my brain just fries.
The razor, the
You
razor.
also, but you also call the razor?
Yeah, razor.
I
Yeah.
thought the razor is only like this, like
No,
with,
well, it depends, but I use a razor for both.
yeah, yeah. Well, we call it the tondeuse in Dutch, like.
Yeah.
So I think hair trimmer, is that not the
Yes,
word?
yes, yes. Yeah.
Ah, okay, hair
Cutters. Yeah.
trimmer. Yeah, yeah, yeah. People, English is not my native tongue.
Well,
It's some.
English is not a fun language, from what I'm told.
Oh,
It's
yeah, well, I'm trying to get the hang of it. It's like that easy. Grab my shit kickers and take the first red eye out of here. Yeah, I mean, American. Yeah, you got all these different states and
yeah,
different accents, so it's kind of cool. But yeah. Anyway, uh, razor or hair trimmer, I
yeah.
think. Uh, and I was just like freeze frozen, like I just couldn't do it. So I called up a girlfriend of mine. She was a hairdresser, and I said, "I'm coming over right now, and you're gonna cut my hair because my hand just froze. I can't do it. It's like I don't know. I felt just like a suicide bomber. I'm gonna do it or I'm not gonna do it. And so in the end, I thought I'm not gonna do it. And then I went there, and yeah, she just said, "Okay, just sit down," and that was it. And I couldn't. It was like this hair was just to one side, and I there was no way back.
Yeah.
And in the end, yeah, she then I got a bald head. But before that time, while I was already getting bald, I decided that maybe I should grow a little bit more of a beard.
On the face.
And
Yeah.
then there was this TV, the movie Arthur.
Yeah.
It is Arthur movie, and there's this actor. I forgot his name. He also got attacked by this whole woke gang in Hollywood.
Oh,
But also for not, but just not. He didn't want to do certain naked scenes, and he didn't want to do it.
yes.
He got
Yes.
caught out. The guy with the bald head, but
Yes. Yeah.
he had this single plaited
Yes.
goatee, and I saw that, and I thought, damn, that looks pretty bloody cool. And I had long hair and always plaited it in the back often, just to keep it together. So I thought I'm just gonna migrate it to the front, like with a big sneeze and it just flaps on the front and that's it. So that was my plan. And then my plan sort of failed because in the end, yeah, you come to a point where it's like this size. And of course, if you plait it, you have three strings that you have to tie.
Yeah.
Those that actually studied some math, if you go diagonal, like Pythagoras, it takes a little bit longer. So in the end, I was not able to
Yeah.
pull the thing together. In the end, my face started to look, yeah, like the genitals of a woman out of the 70s, like this. And no offense, but it just looked horrible. And the only way to basically fix it was by plaiting it on each side one and get it together. So at least it was a little bit streamlined and my hair was not like completely exploded on my chin.
Mhm.
So that was the whole thing. So I had two small ones with the idea of if it's long enough, I'm gonna make it a one.
Yeah.
But never happened. So I just kept two. And sometimes when I'm lazy, I have one, and if I'm really lazy, I have none.
Well,
Uh,
I've seen your facial afro.
yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, that is really it's big, but it's a lot of hair. So in the beginning, it was they were much smaller. So getting the length is not so difficult, I guess. Depends a little bit on your hair growth because you have a certain amount that your hair starts growing, but in the end, it also starts deteriorating. And
Yeah.
for everybody, that's different depending on how strong the hair is. So this is sort of my maximum length. It doesn't really get much longer, but the width that is that took a while. But for me, it's really only this really small part like
Mhm.
this. It's only that, and yeah, and then I'm still able to get most people, if they get a goatee, they can have this tiny little bit of,
Little teeny little thing. Yeah.
yeah, and then they don't get one of these even, and I have
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
But
My wife and I have a deal. Uh, she gets my face 6 months out of the year, and I get my beard 6 months out of the year. So whether I have a long beard or not depends on what time of the year it is.
Ah, okay. So you do have to shave once in a while.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm during the summer, I'm like my sled dogs. My sled dogs blow their coat, and I blow my beard. And then when my sled dogs start to grow their winter coat back, I grow my winter coat back.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, that would not work every season for me. Also, my girlfriend really likes it, and if I shave it, she's probably gonna
Leave you.
living together with the neighbor. That's probably what's gonna happen.
You know, there's and I'm sure you guys have your jokes for it there too, but here they say, God only made a few perfect heads. The rest of them he covered up with hair.
Yeah, I always say there's no such thing as a gray and bald. So you only have a nostalgic blonde and aerodynamics. Oh, that's basically it.
It's a solar panel for a HEMA machine.
Never thought about that. That that could be
Yeah.
actually pretty interesting. But then it only powers like 12% of its maximum power, because that's how solar panels are basically designed. It's pretty bad. I don't know if you
So,
know that. But there's an
yeah.
international
Oh, yeah.
law
No,
for
they,
solar panels that they can only provide 12% of the max capacity.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's
Keep the
all,
oil going. Dun, dun,
yes.
dun.
Drill, baby, drill.
Yes,
But,
exactly.
you know, another part of your look is your physique. And I see a lot of people, they'll ramp up their physique for a movie and then they let it go and then they ramp it up and they let it go. But you and I have been friends for a long time and you're very consistent with your physique. And like, how much work are you putting into that? Like how,
Put the
like,
body put the body in there. So, ooh, still have the flies.
oh yeah. So like how many hours a week are you
We're still
putting in at
there.
the gym? So what
But
what
anyway, yeah. So I keep training basically, and yeah, I don't use any testosterone replacement
okay.
therapy and shit like that. I have my testosterone tested every year, and yeah, some people don't believe it. It's fine with me. I'm always very open with it. I tried Stanasinol like 10 years ago, which is basically these pills that really bodybuilders use for getting rid also of liquid and stuff like that. But it's a synthetic testosterone,
Mhm.
what you actually normally give the elderly, so they can go up the
Oh,
stairs.
yeah.
But when I used that 10 years ago, somebody said, okay, it was for a movie gig. And I thought, okay, I might try it. And then I completely dislocated my shoulder. I had a lot of strength suddenly, but my ligaments couldn't deal with it. And then I was in physiotherapy for 3 months and I
Yeah.
just basically blew the gig. I blew basically everything. And then I said, no chemicals for me. And I just had my testosterone tested. And even 3 years ago, I was on 27.
Well, speaking of testosterone, I don't know if you know this or not, but as a biologist, that's my training, and as a biology teacher, I know that. Did you know that your baldness, your male pattern baldness, is actually linked to heightened levels of testosterone?
I have to say it's a little bit more complicated than that, because it's a combination of some factors. There's also people that actually get bald and don't have really high testosterone. But it's a complicated mechanism. Alopecia androgenetica, basically the baldness what you get from the genetics. But yeah, it is not that important. But what is important is that you test your testosterone. It kind of goes up till 30. That's kind of the max that you can have. So I am still as a 52-year-old because of my training schedule, my food, the stuff that I drink. Uh, yeah, I'm still running in a 30-year-old body basically. So
Mhm.
that is pretty good, I guess, for me. And I have because if I compare, let's say, to the kids now that are like overweight, and you also want to be an example. But yeah, I also need my body. It's just my equipment. I need it for my work.
Yeah.
So if I want it or not, I mean, it's yeah. When I was younger, it was like a vanity thing, also, you know. But I try to get that back sometimes, like you know, walking the streets, and then it's like summer, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I have to kind of yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
flex those apps a little bit, you know. Like, but normally I don't think about it anymore because I've been used to this body for so long, and yeah, just on photo shoots, you know, I have to flex everything and do
Yeah.
posts and stuff, and you get all the
How,
bullshit. But
how strict is your nutritional regimen?
yeah, I don't know because I don't know what is somebody else's. So the wise word would say would be I don't know, but I think it is flexible and strict at the same time.
Mhm.
So I usually ingest like sugar only in the weekends.
Uh-huh.
So during the week, I do take carbs, but like limited because people say, yeah, you don't need carbs, but the whole system runs on carbs. And of course, classically seen, you know, there's going first of all, if we go into dieting stuff, you know, I mean, there's a reason why there's so much money being made.
Oh, sure.
Diet because everybody has an opinion,
Sure.
you know. So I just know what works for me, and as soon as I know what works for me, it doesn't work for me because I am already a little bit older, and some of these things work a little bit
Yeah.
different. So I'm adjusting all the time. But everybody in my club that was overweight and wanted to lose weight, they all are now basically lean machines. So yeah, I have a specific diet, but I can vary. So I eat a lot of meat, but also not always, you know. So I just make sure that my protein intake is there. I got my BCAs, you know, like those refined proteins that you can just put in a shake.
Hmm.
And I'm not talking about a protein shake. I do that sometimes as well, but not that often because there's also a lot of sugars in there.
Yeah.
So eat a lot of fruit, mostly only red fruit because they have the lowest insulin, give the lowest insulin spike. I do a lot of fasting, so I can go
Okay.
like I just decide to stand up one morning and then I just do my routine for the whole week, but I just don't eat. So, but then zero, so I just drink water,
Hmm.
and I can do that for a week
Okay.
easily. I can do it for longer than a week as well, easily. The most problem is the
Do you do
first.
fasting like that when you're working towards something that you have a
Often,
uh,
yeah, I try to combine that. So I have, for instance, a weight loss program for 5 days. I have a weight loss program for myself for 7 days, and I have a weight loss program for 9 days. And in 9 days, I can go from a chubby beer belly into a solid six pack in 9 days.
wow. Wow, that's interesting.
But then I do not eat. I train like a mother peep. I also do cardio, but really slow. Because if you go higher, then you start burning into your muscle. So it's very delicate. And then mostly I don't eat the first 3 days, and then I just eat, let's say, tuna, no carbs, or whatever. And then let's say if a photo shoot, then you make sure that you have bloody hell, what's that word in American? Rode bieten is like the red root, the red, what
Uh,
is that?
like beets? No?
Beets. Bieten in Dutch. So red beets, yeah, beets, yeah.
Okay.
So, and they have a lot of these nitrogen, how do you call it?
Okay.
That kind of pumps up all your
Huh.
muscles.
No kidding. I didn't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that.
yeah. If you just juice that, yeah, and you just put it backwards, and then give it like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and you start doing push-ups and pull-ups. You're just gonna swell up like a madman.
Oh, that's cool.
And then you have the pump, let's say, for a photo shoot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is yeah. So I just do my routine, but throughout the year, I'm average, but sometimes I have these months that winter months that I just grow a little belly and then I get
Because you do like beer.
no,
You don't like beer.
no,
No.
no. I don't drink
Oh,
beer.
okay.
So, yeah, yeah, I like meat, like honey wine, but I don't actually drink alcohol. I
Oh, okay.
mean, very, very rare. I mean, I
Okay.
just thought when we were like drunk at that medieval event when I did the movie stuff, but I can remember the moments where I was drunk in my life. And I can count it exactly on three fingers in the
Yeah.
52 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sometimes drink a diet Coke with rum, but maybe if I drink 4 or 5 a year, it's a lot. I
Okay.
I, I seriously don't really like alcohol, and I sort of some flavors I like, but I don't like what it does to my body.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I live in Holland and I did a lot of crazy things in my life and I did everything that God has forbidden. And but I can tell you that from all the shit that you can use, alcohol is by far the worst
Yeah.
of everything.
Yeah.
It's worse than weed, it's worse than amphetamines, it is worse than cocaine, and it's yeah, it's
It's
basically
a toxin. I was actually and I'm a um fairly devout Christian. I don't want to, pat myself on the back and say I'm a good Christian or anything, but I was 35 when I had my first alcoholic beverage other than communion wine in the Eucharist. Other than the Eucharist, the first time I had any alcohol was when I was 35 years old, and I'll have an alcoholic beverage when I go out with friends. But some friends of mine and I were just talking this week. Like I enjoy having a beer, but I really hate the way I feel after I drink it. Like my body just feels like it's gumped up, like you put tar into moving
yeah, but
parts.
that's literally I checked it. So when we in the old days we had parties, and I'm not gonna say it on camera, but I mean we did basically we combined when I was young we combined like everything. Sometimes it's this crazy amounts. Also, we just party with these guys in Amsterdam with my friends when I was younger. And that's what you do. But still, on Monday you go to the gym and you do your sets as normal. If you don't drink, if you only drink, yeah, I would push like 3/4 of what I would normally push,
Uh-huh.
and I would not have any stamina, no nothing. So alcohol would be well, yeah, is really the worst. Basically, you can go to the gym and not lose any strength or whatever on actually any kind of drugs, whatever you want to do. It will not affect really. It will only enhance your performance, except alcohol.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know about heroin. That is something I would never do and try. But I don't know about that. But I don't know if that actually has effect on muscle output. But I know that sugar and heroin are very very close together. For instance, and alcohol, of course, is sugar. And the truth is, people say, well, sugar, like cocaine is much more worse, or weed is much more worse than sugar. Well, actually, the data is very clear on it.
Yes.
And also, if you stop with weed, you don't only have psychological side effects that you might want to smoke a little bit more. And
I did I did
okay,
I did a 40-day detox a few years back, and I was
yeah,
afraid that it was going to be caffeine that was going to be my biggest problem. It was sugar. I didn't realize that I was actually addicted to sugar, and I think if you
the
think
sugar
about
headaches are insane. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
you don't have that with any kind of drug. You stop with sugar completely. Some people have migraines for 2 weeks.
yeah,
Heroin is 24 hours,
yeah,
detox. Sugar can be 2 weeks of just migraine where you can't just not function. That is, and I did tests with it, completely without sugar, and then you get these migraines, and then you put your finger in just crystallized, crystal sugar, and you have this migraine, and you just put it on your tongue, and your migraine is instantly gone.
yeah. That's an
That,
addiction.
that
That's
That
how you
is,
know it's an addiction.
it's insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. The big question I wanted to wrap up with, I've got two more questions, but the big one I wanted to wrap up with was I wanted to ask you, you know, I'll use myself as an example. I'm nowhere near as accomplished as you are in your arts and everything that you've done. But my wife would say, she says this to me often. She says, "You're cursed with too many gifts." I'm good. She says you're good at too many things, and because you're good at so many things, it pulls you in a lot of different directions. You seem to have you're a jazz musician, you're a painter, you're a martial artist, and now from the looks of it, you're a rising star in the acting world, with the roles that you've been taking on in the last several years. Um, Used to, that was a valued thing, when someone was a Renaissance man. I don't know if you all use that phrase there, but Renaissance man,
Yeah, exactly.
a man that was well rounded, that could write poetry, that could play an instrument, that could fight in combat, and these kinds of things. Nowadays, they just call it a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. But how do you find the balance as a Renaissance man? How do you find a balance, and how do you find your way to becoming successful while still engaging in all of these passions and interests that you have?
Yeah, it's very, it is very challenging, and indeed it is a curse, in a sense, and a blessing. But yeah, my father, for instance, gave me the worst advice that I could ever have, and that was when I was younger. And he said, "It doesn't matter what you're going to do, even if you are just cleaning the streets, just make sure you're gonna be the best street sweeper on this planet, you know?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, what?" So, and then my drum teacher told me, he says, "That's, I don't know if that's wise advice." He said, "In your case, you have many skills. So why don't you do all the things you love to do as well and as best as you can do? You might not end up being the best in each of them, but your life will never be boring." And that landed. So yeah, and when I was sitting in the classroom, I remember that vividly. And the teacher was there, and he says, "Mish, why are you staring out the window?" And I said, "Well, that's where the action is," I said. "But is it so? What is there a question?" He said, "Yes. What do you want to become when you are when you grow up?" So I said, "Well, ma'am, I can't become something, but I mean, what I would like to become is a wise man, and preferably a nice one if it's possible. But you probably mean what I'm gonna do from 9 till 5. But that's not who I'm going to become, you know, that's my profession." And I said, "I have no idea, but for shit is sure, I'm not gonna sit in a room like this or an office and just be staring out of the window all day." So from that moment on, you know, I chose a pretty adventurous life. Like I said, a lot of people, my friends know it, but, yeah, I have a past. So, and, yeah, so I did some stuff in the past, where that was a really conscious choice. It's been also in interviews and stuff. I was raised very, very securely, and my father was a dentist, and my mother was also a mouth hygienist. And I decided, you know, that I didn't have any role models. So, and I felt that I was not a man. So the only way to become a man, I just went basically underground and did a crash course. And from that on, some stuff happened, and I almost got killed a couple of times, and that did make an impression. And in the end, I really felt that my cards were, I was out of cards. You know what I mean? My time was up, and then there was some really bad stuff happened, and I ended with a buddy of mine with a whole bunch of bullets in the car, and glass was broken, and I had glass in my face, and we were arrested, and I was of course a lot younger, but and that thing completely escalated, and that was my turning point. That I said, okay, I need to fix my life. So, and that's what I did. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna try to make and my money with all my hobbies and try to monetize it. Because if I can do that, I have the balls to do that. Why don't I have the balls to do that? Because yeah, if you sell something
Yeah.
or a product, it's easy. But if you make art and somebody doesn't like it,
Well,
it's very personal.
both take balls though, to your point, right? It takes
Yeah,
balls
but one
to
was
live
much
crazy.
easier than for me than the other, and really stepping in the light and trying to monetize your talents. That was that was very scary. And but in the end, I made my money as an artist and as a musician. And then, of course, yeah, as a sword fighter, and now an actor, and now I'm writing a lot. And I actually write poetry. I used to do that when I was younger, but now I'm actually working on 3 books, and but they are game books, but still like fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
But I like also writing, and basically how I do it, I just feel how it comes, you know.
Do you
So
feel like that there do you
I
feel
just
like that
basically.
do you feel like that there are seasons in your life where one of your giftings and one of your passions takes the floor, and the other
Yeah,
ones kind of fall back, and then in this season, like
yeah.
you're still dabbling in them all, but in this season you're going to
Oh, yeah.
focus on, yeah.
But I go so with the flow, you know. Sometimes then I feel like, okay, now I have the inspiration to write. I'm like saying, okay, what do I have the inspiration for? What do I feel? Do I feel like writing? No, I feel like shit. I don't have any inspiration. Do I feel like grabbing the guitar? No. What else is, well, I'm not in the mood for anything. I just actually just want to watch TV and do nothing. Okay, then let's go to the gym. That's the go-to place. So then at least I am locked in and I'm doing something, you know. So that is always good. But if I feel like writing, then I can write for a week or 2 weeks. And I just start at 8 o'clock and I stop at 10 o'clock at night, and I just keep punching in stuff, and I have my protein shake, you know, and of course I go to the gym for a couple of hours and then I come back. But yeah, and often I
You
try
just
to
you keep moving.
I make it as entertaining as possible because you know, in the summertime now, I take my boat, take my laptop, and I just go with my boat, and I just go somewhere and just dock and sit there, have a drink, and just work from there in the sun. Then I go to some other place. Then I take my trike, drive somewhere else. So I keep changing the scenery when I'm working from my office, basically.
Yeah.
So I just take my laptop. My laptop is my office, but I like to, and then I also meet people, and you know, so I just like to keep moving at the same time while I'm working, you know. And if I feel like playing music, then I take my guitar somewhere and I just start practicing, and I do that. And if I want to go to the forest and swing my sword, then I do that. So it's just, yeah, I just go with the flow.
So what's next for Mishaël Lopes Cardozo?
Well, that's a good question. I'm wondering that myself. I have a whole bunch of auditions going, and I hope that something is gonna come out of that. I also had yeah, I also had a script that actually got stolen, and it's
Oh,
been used also for a lot of, but they did a really poor job. But now I at least know that the story is still good and the story is still intact. So it's a He-Man movie, but they basically made it a Japanese kind of a thing because my
okay.
storyboard writer kind of took off with it. Some douche bag that I
Yeah.
did not know that well, and I kind of trusted him. But yeah, that can sometimes happen. But now I at least know that that story is good. So I wrote a script, so I'm busy with that. So even if shit happens, it also happens to me. I just try to give it a positive swing. But I have a couple of auditions going, so that is pretty cool. And hopefully that will work. And yeah, I'm completing these 3 books, so I'm working on that. So it's gonna
So
kickstart.
are these novels, or are they
No, it's a mechanical, you know, like Dungeon and
Yeah,
Dragons.
I know that you're into that. Yeah, the
Yeah,
fantasy
well,
games. Yeah.
I ran it very nerdy, but I got into that stuff, the tabletop RPGs, because of military friends of mine that I never expected. You know, like I got a NATO buddy of mine, Spec Ops dude, and he is a hardcore tabletop guy, and he basically introduced me. And I did it before with some nerds, and that was not my thing. But if you have military guys and it's really professional, and you got
Yeah.
good actors, it can be a lot of fun. And so that became sort of my hobby. But then the problem was that everybody was playing certain rules, you know, like editions of certain games. And I said, okay, let's unify all that stuff and make our own rules. So I started with that, and then yeah, we worked on that for 10 years just for the fun. In the last 4 years, some game designers dropped on board and said that it's really, really good. You guys should publish it. So now for the last 4 years, I've been working on it very
That's
professionally,
awesome.
and it has a game mechanics that is really, really unique. There's no homebrew system like it, and it's called Real, and it's very realistic. So it's as real as it comes to combat, and it's very militarized, very technical, but plays in a sort of Tolkien
Yeah.
kind of world.
I-
So and then a table book and a dungeon master guide that basically is something like that. It's like similar like with Dungeons and Dragons. It's just named differently, about acting and how you can lead the game and stuff like
That's
that.
awesome.
So that is for me something that I look forward to. I'm busy with a new CD for guitar.
Yeah.
So there's yeah, so that's basically it. And I'm now in contact with a new agent, a really big one. So yeah, let's see how it all develops.
So I want to encourage everyone that's been listening to us today. Punch Michelle's name into YouTube. He's got a really great collage of clips from movies that he's been in. Check out his acting, and then go watch those movies and watch those TV series. But to wrap up, where would you suggest, Michelle, that people follow you? Like, is Facebook, social media, to follow your acting career and your artistic career? Like, where should we direct our
Yeah, that's a good question because I really suck balls with my social media. I don't post enough and I don't do enough with it, and I should. But yeah, I'm trying my best. But if you want to help me a bit, then yeah, just go to Master Cardozo on Instagram and
Instagram?
give me a thumbs up or follow me, and that would be very cool. And also Mishaël Lopes Cardozo is probably gonna be somewhere written here. I'm on Facebook. I have a professional page there, and I have a personal page there.
Well, I tell you what I'll do.
Yeah, really
I'll
cool.
pull up.
And
Yeah, I'll pull up those links and I'll put them all in the show
yeah,
notes so that
and
people
of
can.
course we have the Dutch zwaardvechten.nl, which basically means swordfighting.nl, but also amac.org
All
is
right.
my business, my company, and Cardozo Sword Sport. That is my yeah, that's basically my club, which is part of the AMAC, and
In
there
the
we
in
do
the HEMA
film.
universe.
Yeah, yeah. Well, AMAC is basically what is it? HEMA events and the film. So yeah, that's basically
Awesome.
what we do.
Okay. All right. I'll get all those links together and put them into the
Very
show
good.
notes. I really appreciate you taking the time for me today. It's been awesome, man.
No, it was very cool to be on the show. I
And
really really appreciate it. It was fun. Also cool to see you again and have
when you
a
want to hop on a plane and come to the snowy north and run some sled dogs with me, let me know.
well. That always looks amazing. When I see those clips, I'm like, damn it, that's really cool. It's too bad you're not around the corner. And here
Yeah.
there is no snow. It's just flat.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you want to see the sun here in Holland, we have to download pictures from the internet. So it's just cloudy. But anyway, yeah, that would be cool.
Yes,
I
sir.
will
All right. All
definitely
right. God bless you, my friend, and thank you for taking the time.
thank you.
Okay.